Fade in, interior Optimist Youth Home. It's 1993. I'm at a juvenile detention facility in Highland Park called Optimist Youth Home. I'm about to teach a screenwriting workshop to 30 teenage boys. I'm a little nervous. These kids are locked up for rape, assault, and attempted murder. The class starts off pretty smoothly. The boys are into the story, which is about two rival gang members that end up at the same detention camp. One of them is black and the other Latino. The boys are trying to impress me by showing off their bullet wounds. Before we break for dinner, I suggest that the story should have a happy ending. A powerful Latino gang leader protests, spouting profanity. We would never do that. We would fight to the death. We break for dinner. My friend Wanda Patterson, who got me through all the red tape so that I could teach there, reminds me that this should be the kids' story, and I shouldn't be imposing my own goals. I realize that she's absolutely right. So when we return for dinner, I tell the kids, hey, you're going to have it exactly the way you want it. The story's going to end just the way you want it, but it's too late. Ricardo, the tough gang leader, and his friends have boycotted my workshop, and none of them return. Flashback. Exterior Costa Rican jungle. I'm working as a script supervisor on a movie in one of the most lush jungles in Costa Rica, surrounded by pristine beaches and terrified of all the gigantic spiders. Freaking out. I'm writing detailed notes for the editor, and I remind an actor that the gun should be in his left hand and not his right hand. I feel bored. Exposition. I've led an amazing life. I got to travel all over the world, living in exotic locations, working with movie stars and famous directors as a script supervisor. Movies aren't shot in chronological order the way you see them. So for instance, we might shoot all of the scenes in a restaurant during one day. Then it's up to the editor to cut them throughout different times in the story. It's the script supervisor's job to make sure that all the continuity matches. So, we are in charge of all the continuity to make sure that when you watch it, you don't see something like a glass of water with one moment it's half full and the next minute it's full. All of those little details. We also run lines with the actors, and we remind the director of any shots they may need. Now, I had this phenomenal job, and I loved it, and I got to live in exotic places for months at a time, like Russia and Argentina, working with Sean Connery, Gregory Peck, Julia Roberts, and many other people. But you know, after 20 years, I became frustrated. I began to feel like this job was not my highest calling. And these feelings began to grow on me because over a period of time, I became burnt out. It didn't seem so important of whether an actress's button on her shirt should be open or closed. I needed to make a bigger difference in the world. Flashback. Exterior streets of East LA. I'm working on a movie called My Family. It's Tuesday night at 3 in the morning. There are two brothers, ages 8 and 11, hanging out with the film crew. I'm shocked. I say, where are your parents? The 8-year-old says, I don't know where my mother is. And my father, he don't give a bleep. I just can't believe this. So, I do some research. I discover that not only is Los Angeles one of the wealthiest and most glamorous cities in the world, we have one of the highest poverty rates in the nation. We have 45,000 gang members living in our city. And did you know that LA has more homeless children and foster kids than anywhere else in the entire country? I call these kids the forgotten children because they're tucked away in shelters, foster group homes, jails, mental health clinics, under the radar of the public eye. I had to do something. Exposition. I grew up in a wonderful suburban neighborhood in Long Island, New York. And my parents were terrific. They gave me everything I needed, including putting me through college at Boston University. I was so grateful for their love and support. And so I felt compelled to pay this forward. And the memory of these two brothers in the middle of the night kept haunting me. Now, I'm also a writer. I've been writing since I was 7 years old. And screenwriting is especially my passion. I've written more than 20 screenplays, A couple of them have been produced with name actors, and I've had a number of my scripts optioned. So that's when I came up with the story about the two rival gang members ending up at the same detention camp. I called all the different probation facilities in LA County, and I volunteered to teach my screenwriting workshop. None of the probation officers ever got back to me. They just ignored me. Now, in 1992, some of you may remember, we had the riots, and our city was in chaos, and a number of people wanted to help and make a difference. So I joined a volunteer group, and that's where I met my friend Wanda Patterson. Remember the woman who got me through the red tape at Optimist? Back to Interior Optimist Youth Home. My class is moving along, but I'm crushed because Ricardo and his friends never return. I feel like a total failure because I've let them down. So I reach out to Edward James Olmos's company. Some of you may know him. He's a huge star. He starred in Stand and Deliver and many other films. And I'd worked on 2 movies with him. They send over an actor named Danny Harrow to visit my workshop. Ricardo and his friends immediately return, especially when they find out that the script is going to end exactly the way they want it. The 2 gang leaders do kill each other. But I add a bittersweet epilogue where their 2 younger brothers bring some hope by playing together. We do a final read-through of the screenplay, and I notice that some of these tough gang members are trying to fight their tears. Many of these kids have learned to read and write through my workshop. A number of them want to return to school and even apply to college. As for Ricardo, he has gang tattoos removed from his neck and his hand. I'm so pumped up. I can't believe I made a difference in these kids' lives, and I'm hooked. I got to do it again. So based on my success, I'm able to teach a second screenwriting workshop, this time at a co-ed detention center in the Valley, and I get the same results. I share my story and experiences with another screenwriter. She calls me the next week, and she says, my professor Leslie Stevens at the American Film Institute wants to give you $5,000 to start a nonprofit organization. I don't even know what a nonprofit is, because the entertainment industry is definitely for-profit. But I'm so excited and intrigued by this. So in 1996, I become the founder and executive director of Create Now. The name stands for the fact that creativity is crucial for our world. Otherwise, our lives would be so bleak and colorless. And all we have is the present moment, because the past is behind us, and who knows what the future is going to bring. All we have is now. That was 20 years ago, and Create Now has served 37,000 youth since then. Thank you. It's so exhilarating to me, and I would much rather be doing this than working as a script supervisor. And what Create Now does is we provide arts mentoring and education to thousands of kids that are in trouble or at risk throughout Southern California. We match writers, artists, musicians, and dancers to implement arts programs. Many people ask, why the arts? Well, studies have shown that the arts increase our brain neurons. In addition, they motivate kids to stay in school. Did you know that 50% of our inner city youth drop out every year? The arts also accelerate test results, and they're incredibly therapeutic. They reduce anxiety, and they increase confidence and self-esteem. And Los Angeles is the arts capital of the world. We generate almost 1 million jobs a year in the arts. Yay! Give ourselves a hand. So, not only are we helping these children to heal and to express themselves, we're also helping them to get out of poverty. We've had many success stories. So, cut 2, Frank Trujillo. Frank grew up in the foster system, and he was on probation for gang activity. His passion was to play the saxophone. We were able to give him a 1-hour lesson with Michael Lincoln, who's one of the top jazz saxophonists in the world. After that class, Frank joined Compton Community College and became a first-chair saxophonist. He was featured on a national TV show on Telemundo that happens every year, hosted by Gloria Estefan. And he got to perform with one of the top Mexican bands. Frank said that his success was because nobody, especially a man, had ever encouraged him to follow his dreams and be persistent. Cut 2, Tasha Caulfield. Tasha grew up in the Crenshaw district with a dysfunctional and abusive family. She began running away from home between the ages of 12 and 15, and she was in 9 different detention centers between that time. She took our TV writing workshop and bonded with her mentor. I found her to be incredibly bright and funny and determined, so I also mentored her, and I gave her additional resources. As a result, Tasha got a scholarship from Warner Brothers and graduated from USC Film School. That's not all. She's performed stand-up comedy all around the country. She produced and directed a feature documentary about stand-up. She's working now on her second documentary. She's published 3 books, written a number of scripts, and she just got her real estate license. Tasha is actually here with us today, so Tasha, would you stand up? Let's give her a round of applause. She's amazing. I'm so incredibly proud of her. What I've learned is that while the arts are impactful, it's really the relationships that kids form with positive adult role models through mentoring that makes the biggest impact. Just taking a child or a group of kids to the beach or the park or bowling can have a profound effect. The kids just want to be heard and know that people care. Now, many people think that mentoring is traditionally one-on-one mentoring, but many of us have busy schedules, and there's all kinds of mentoring, like team mentoring or family mentoring. And what they've also discovered is that volunteering in whatever capacity for whatever group you want to donate your time to has incredible impact on you. It increases your endorphins and makes you feel good. It improves your health. It also improves your relationships with family, neighbors, friends, and it ripples out to the whole community. You know, while it was incredibly exciting for me to travel around the world with movie stars to exotic countries, getting paid lots of money, I wouldn't trade it for the world because it doesn't hold a candle to the work that I have done through Create Now to touch all of these children's lives. I have to pinch myself sometimes. And there have been many times when I almost gave up, but I couldn't. I just couldn't give up. And I encourage each of you, every one of us has something special to offer. What is it that you are passionate about? What is it that you would do for free because it's play, it's not work? And when you discover what that is, act on it. And if you can help kids along the way, do it now. Fade out. Thank you so much.